Hey, good morning, everybody. User, you just said the most incredible thing ever. I hope everybody reads that. That is probably, man, that's snatching the pebble from the hand, Muser. Good morning, Zorro, and good morning, everybody. But that's the one. That's the goal. Is instead of manufacturing, they just come to you, and they really do. Kind of wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the room. Let me take a look and see who's here. If you're new with me, I'm not sure I see any brand new names, but if you are, welcome. If you are one of the usual suspects, welcome. It's good to have you. Um, I'm ready for the day. I hope you guys are ready for the day. We're going to do what we did every day. We're going to talk a lot about patterns and advantages and all that sort of stuff, and entries and exits. I want you guys to try something crazy. If you're on sim, and let me be very clear about that. If you're on sim, and you think you see a trade, take it, right? And then go back and talk about what you saw, what made you think. I think that there's two ways to approach, right? Once you're pretty good at your chart reads, you're going to start to see things. You're going to see things that you didn't see before. You're going to recognize patterns that you maybe don't even recognize or realize that you're recognizing. So try something crazy, guys. If you're on sim and you think you see a trade, take it. And then take a picture of it and write what you see and what your charts are telling you. I know that we talk heavily about the high probability trend trade. And guys, I'm a firm believer in it. And once you understand it, I think that a lot of things fall into place without you having to put them into place. So for you guys that are doing a little bit more, for you guys that are reading your indicators, that are really at that point, just do it. Go on sim and see what happens, right? You may be amazed at what you see. And there's nothing wrong with sim. Sim isn't a bad word. Simulator's not a bad place to be. It's not a negative. Guys, I'm back on sim for the entire week as I focus on and learn a chart that my brother's using now in the NASDAQ. I'm not willing to risk live money as I approach something new. So there's nothing wrong with sim. There's no negatives about it. But I think that's where the best information comes from, is when you have the ability to trade what you see and then go back to it and study it and see if it is actually a plan. So just throwing that out there for you guys that are feeling like your hands are tied. News, right? Every day. Today is Tuesday, April 30th, guys. It's the last day of April. Mañana is May. And at 8:30 a.m. we had pretty big news, and man, it made the market go crazy. Did anybody watch it? If you watched it, you saw the reaction. And man, it would have been tough to be in a position one way or the other there, because typically there's this huge fight. Just now, we had the S&P CS Composite, the 20-year. That was medium impact. I'm not sure if that did anything. Did that make the market spike? I wasn't watching the S&P. 9 a.m. doesn't look like it did much. Dud, that's okay. And then at 10 a.m. we have the CB consumer confidence. The cheeseburger consumer confidence, as it is lovingly referred to in this room. It's obviously not cheeseburger, but that's coming out at 10 a.m. and it's high impact, which means that it has the potential to have the same effect that 8:30 news had. So just knowing that, just knowing where the news is and that it is high impact, gives you the advantage of maybe saying, all right, I'm out of there. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to step in front of that train. I'm just going to wait for it to clear and then I'll be good. So that's it. News every morning. I drop that link in the room every morning. I talk about it every morning. And until you get absolutely slaughtered in news, it won't become a habit for you. But once you do, it's pretty amazing how aware you are of it. I'm going to go to the education page. I'm going to click on the tutorials section. And I am going to say the exact same thing that I've said every day for the last 3.5 years, guys. My pledge to you is I'm going to give you everything that you need to be successful. Everything that you need to be successful with the software, you're going to get in this classroom. You are going to get information on reading your indicators. You are going to be handed a plan that optimizes your chances of success. You're going to be given study tools as well as directions to study. I'm literally going to hand you the golden goose, right? The goose that lays the golden eggs. I need you to not turn it into fried chicken. Just embrace it. Go with it. Learn to do what we do, and then learn to do it your way. And isn't that what they say? Isn't that one of those old adages that the old people say? Imitate somebody that's doing what you want to do, and then learn how to do it your way. That's really what this class is designed for. It allows you to focus on the basics first. It keeps you really adamant about putting yourself in the best position. And we do this with a high probability trend trade. And I feel like I'm going to ramble a lot today, guys, just so you know. Feel free to redirect me. If we need a safe word or something to put me back in line, let me know. But we're going to focus on a high probability trend trade the same way we do every day. And we don't do this. I don't talk about high probability trend trades because I don't want you guys to find more trades. And I don't talk about high probability trend trades because I think this is the only trade that anyone should ever take. And I don't talk about high probability trend trades because John Novak makes me only talk about high probability trend trades. Guys, I focus on this trade first because this is a trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time when you follow the rules. This is a trade that teaches you to read your indicators. This is a trade that creates confidence from success. And what I have found is that the people that really commit themselves to learning these looks in the beginning, that really commit themselves to identifying the advantages, these are the people that find the most incredible trades outside of them because they're so focused on the advantages. And the high probability trend trade, guys, it's defined as when each indicator on every chart agrees with the rules for the trade. The strongest triggers, the no termination conditions, nothing between you and your target. And once you can identify this one, and Paul W., I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot here. Once you get good at identifying this, guys, you're going to start to see patterns outside of it. And Paul W., that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're starting to post charts in my room that are next level chart reading, that are taking the advantages that you recognize and then finding more opportunities from them. And that's exactly the path, guys. And most of the time, you're not even going to realize that that's what you're doing. Instead, you're going to feel fearful that you're outside of that plan. So understand that the high probability trend trade isn't the end all be all. It's just the beginning. It is like the first step in your trading journey. And then I liken it to, does everybody remember when you learned how to drive? Ron, you may not. That was like 70 years ago. But most of you guys may remember that when you first learned how to drive and you got behind the wheel of that car, you could drive 20 miles to get to wherever you needed to be and not have any idea what you passed or what song was on the radio or whether there was traffic or not traffic and what color the car next to you was. You're oblivious because you're so focused on that drive there. By the time you're 18, 19, been driving a few years, you can really start to take in the sights and sing along with the radio and it becomes effortless, right? The things that were so intense in the beginning become effortless, and trading is very similar. And if you focus on the high probability trend trade first, it's going to give you the amazing gift of being a chart reader, which is really the greatest gift you could ever receive as a trader, because chart reading is about 90% of your day. And chart reading is not rules. Chart reading is nothing more than looking at the market and saying to yourself, hey, good morning, JW. Saying to yourself, this is what I see. These are the advantages that are present. These are the advantages that seem to be missing. This is what my indicators are telling me. Does that information relate to my rules? Does that put me into a trade? Because 90% of the time, you're just reading and you're waiting for those advantages to come together. 10% of the time, bingo, you're in a trade. Your rules are met, and you're like, man, I've got so much confidence because I know that these advantages are present. And chart readers understand a few very key concepts. They understand where the market is likely to continue. And in the beginning, that becomes your entry for the highest probability trend trade. As you grow with the software, maybe there's other ways to get into it. You're going to understand where the market is likely to go. It's going to allow you to take profits at key areas rather than hoping that areas break, hoping that Fibonacci resistance or those yellow one-to-ones don't exist and don't have the potential to stop the market. And then you're going to find you're trading more profitable. And then you're going to understand where the market is likely to stop. And this is the one that most of you will fight the most because you're going to be good at it. And you're going to be so good at it that it's going to be like giant red flags waving, saying, don't take this next trade. It's an area that may stop the market. Don't get into the market here. This may create a bounce. And you're going to have to listen to that voice that comes from your chart reading. Your ability to read charts is going to take you to entry precision. It's fun to say that, right? Trade entry precision. And it sounds pretty cool. Where's my pointer options? There we go. Trade entry precision sounds amazing. But the reality is that's exactly what you're going to have. You guys, whether you are on day 1 or day 100, if you focus on the high probability trend trade, you're going to be able to identify exactly where the market is most likely to continue. So much so that you will wait for the market to come to you because you're so confident in that spot to create a bounce. And it's going to help you reduce your risk and it's going to help you maximize your profit potential. And your great entries, which are a byproduct of your chart reading, are what's going to set you up for the most manageable trades, the easiest to manage trades. So I'm very much an order of operations kind of guy. I'm a huge fan of building a foundation and then growing from it. And that's what the first hour of class is going to be, guys. All we're going to do is focus on a high probability trend trade. And we're going to talk about our charts in terms of advantages. What I need from you, if you really want to get to where you want to be, I need you to post your trades in class. A lot of you will post your trades in class for about a week and then you'll stop posting. You know who you are. And you may still have struggles. And guys, most of your struggles are easy fixes. You just need someone to tell you what you did right or wrong. Most of your struggles don't even need to be struggles. But if you're not posting in the room, I don't get the opportunity to help you guys. I'm here for 15 hours every week, giving you live feedback on anything and everything that you present or ask in the room. It's like having a private session. So I encourage you guys, post everything in the room. Doesn't matter to me what kind of trades you're taking. I don't care if they're momentum trades or HVA trades or edge trades, counter trend trades. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you tell me what you saw, we'll talk about advantages. And the cool thing is a lot of times you guys may teach me something because we all see things different, right? You guys look at one thing and go, man, this is amazing. And I look at it and it terrifies me. But when you talk me through it, hey, Mark, this is why I went long right here. Because I had the best momentum ever and it was a potential breakout. And when it pulled back to the area, right at those triggers, I knew that this was an opportunity to get up to the next level. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Josh, that's brilliant. I never even thought of that. Let's write some rules down on this chart. Let's make sure that we can repeat it. Let's make sure that it's testable. And let's make sure that it is a pattern that typically wins more than it loses. And guys, that's how plans are built. That's how you break out of the high probability trend trade is annotating what you see so that you can go back and repeat it and make sure that it wins more than it loses. The easiest way to do that is to use your spreadsheet, and that's really the second piece, guys. Your spreadsheet is 4 tabs. The first one is a trade journal. Everything that you do goes in the spreadsheet. Every time you take a trade, it goes in the spreadsheet. Don't hide losers from yourself. I did this in the beginning. I would take a loser and I would conveniently not take a picture of it or put it in the spreadsheet. And the sad thing is I didn't learn anything from my losers other than my P&L was lower. But once you record everything, you're going to start to see the patterns that are bringing you success. And that's a very key part to what we do because everything is patterns. So pattern recognition comes through repetition. You're also going to recognize the patterns that maybe aren't serving you the way you wish they would. And the cool thing is even if you don't recognize the pattern, um, I probably will. I'll recognize the pattern on your charts, but I'll also recognize the pattern in you. We all have a thing. Some of us have multiple things. Some of you love to trade in determination conditions. You just hope things break. Some of you hate to trade with momentum. Some of you take early entries. Some of you take late entries. Some of you hold too long. Some of you get out too soon. Everybody's got a thing. And guys, I have this curse of a brain where I rarely forget these things. So if I see your thing, Erla, if your thing is that you keep getting in early, right? We're going to talk about a plan for patience. We're going to talk about a pattern on the chart that gives you that patience, that allows you to stop taking the first two losers and really focusing on the winners. And you have to be able to go back and do that yourself. So every morning, I want you guys to go in and study what you did yesterday, right? Yesterday, what worked for me was trading with momentum, trading with a clear path. What didn't work for me was trading into termination conditions. So I wake up this morning and I say to myself, Mark, let's focus on momentum. Let's give ourselves the best chances of success by having a clear path. And make sure that you're not trading in determination conditions. Make sure. So what I did is I've set myself up for the day. I've got some very clear goals. I know exactly what I'm looking for and what I'm looking to avoid. And guys, this is what accelerates the learning for you new users. We're going to learn the trigger line and the Fibonacci rules for when it's okay to trade. I say for when it's okay to trade. The translation there is you're going to know when your rules are met. And when your rules are met, that should be when you take a trade, right? When your rules are met is when you have a statistical advantage. When your rules are met is when there is a pattern that has been proven through study and back testing and repetition to win more than it loses. And guys, this is the difference between trading, hoping that things happen, and saying to yourself, if I take this 10 times, 7 of them are more likely to win because I've proven that over time. And that's what we're going to do with this high probability trend trade. You guys have the awesome advantage of simulation. And it's not like simulation where you write down on a piece of paper. They won't have to do that in economics in high school where you paper traded the markets. I wish I had Nexgen then. I would have had an A. You can literally get into the market as though it's live. You can enter and exit, and everything is 100% the same as when you trade live, except for the risk, because there is none. So simulate, but practice the right trades. And if you're not sure if you have the right trades, please drop them in the room. Let's talk about them. Let's make sure that you do. Let's make sure that you aren't creating some long-term failure plan where luck is bringing you to the next level. We're going to simplify heavily. I'm going to give you the most basic plan in this room. I'm gonna drop it right into your hot little hands, and it is going to have very specific rules for entry, a very specific plan for management, and it's going to be only 2 trades. That's it, just 2 trades with the most clear instructions on what it takes to enter the market. The plan is designed to increase your ability to read charts. The plan is designed to give you something that is capable of profit while you are still a student. The plan is designed to give you confidence through winning more than you lose. The plan is not at all going to be the end of the road for any of you. I feel comfortable saying that. And you're going to find more opportunities outside of it. But until you're at that point, the plan gives you something to follow. So you have to learn what the looks look like to become so that it's easy. And guys, that's where this third tab, as you begin taking pictures and annotating charts, you're not going to have a library to flip through, not in the first week or two. So come and flip through mine. That's about 300 pictures. of you guys embracing advantages, me stealing these pictures right out of the room and dropping them into my spreadsheet. I would encourage you to do the same. If somebody drops a picture in and you hear me go, oh my gosh, Gino, that is the highest probability trend trade I've ever seen. It's absolutely beautiful. Every one of you in this room should be stealing it and putting into your trade tracking sheet under your favorite looks. This is exactly what I want the market to look like when I take an entry. Here's 300 examples you can check against, guys. There's entries, there's management, there's patterns that repeat themselves, there's termination conditions. If you make your section look like the one that I've put together, it's going to be difficult for you to not know what's going on in the market. And then as you learn the high probability trend trade, guys, there's a tab dedicated 100% to the looks. When the rules are met, when the rules aren't met, because you really need to know the difference between the two. You need to know what it looks like to have strong triggers, and then it just makes sense that you would want to understand what weak triggers look like, the other side of the coin. And you're going to understand what a clear path looks like, which means that you should understand when you've reached an area that takes away that advantage. And this second tab is designed for brand new users. And I'm going to give you a little Word document that goes with it that tells you exactly how to do it. But using your spreadsheet, committing to the looks so they become easy. It happens through annotation. Every time you type on a chart, your brain has to associate the words that just came out of your fingertips with the look that the arrow is pointing to. And this builds recognition through repetition. Using your spreadsheet and going back and studying it and committing to the best of the best and learning how to avoid, that's going to accelerate the learning. And then keeping it simple, guys. The high probability trend trade. And let me remind you guys, I encourage you to interrupt me. If you have a question about anything that I'm saying, please interrupt me. I don't have a time frame. This is all I do these days. So if we go 10 minutes over because we had to make sure you guys had clarity, I'm totally cool with that. So don't ever be shy. Be stingy with your time here. There's 3 rules for the high probability trend trade. That's it. You're going to want there to be more, but there's not. There's only 3 rules, guys, and these 3 rules each provide an advantage. And each advantage pieces together to create the trade. So you're going to start talking to yourself in terms of advantages. From day one, you're going to say to yourself, does my large chart have strong trigger lines? If they do, I have the advantage of momentum. And then, of course, the flip side is if you don't, well, you're going to say, well, I've lost this advantage, which takes away the likelihood of success. You're going to do the same thing for each rule, and you're going to learn to speak to yourself in these 3 advantages, and you're going to know exactly where to find them. It's only 2 charts. I think this is what surprises a lot of people, is there's only 2 charts, and there's only 3 rules. And you engineers right now are saying, but Mark, how could that possibly create a trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time? How could that possibly give me enough advantages to make money consistently every day? Well, the good news is it does. Your large chart is a broad stroke of a brush, guys. It's a slow-moving chart. It is a, I don't know, a freight train, if you will. And it's a freight train in a couple different ways. The first is a freight train is hard to stop. The second is if a freight train had to turn around, it wouldn't be a quick process. So you're going to be able to use the most current bar on the large chart, the one up front, and it's going to define the direction of the market. If the background behind that most current bar is green, the market's going up. Your highest advantage comes from looking for rules to be met for high probability trend trades long. And if the background is red, the market's going down. And your best chance of success comes from looking for rules to be met for high probability trend trade short, going down with the market. Never fighting direction keeps you on the right side of an awful lot of stuff. Once you've established the direction, you're going to be able to recognize whether or not you have the advantage of momentum. Rule number 1 gives you the advantage of momentum with strong triggers. You're also going to understand if you've reached an area that may be problematic, and this takes you to rule number 2, where you will know whether you are trading into an area likely to stop the market or if you have room to get to your profit targets. So all of this happens on the large chart, guys. One bar is going to define direction, momentum, and areas. And we use the large chart because the large chart is exactly what the people in charge want to have happen. The guys that move the market, the ladies that create trends, the people that establish momentum, the they thems that react to areas, right? Whatever you want to call them, I don't care. But these are the people in charge, and these are the people that are going to give you the information you need to look for an entry. Well, there's always a group of people that love to fight the people in charge, the anarchists, the buck the system, leather jacket, cigarette smoking hooligans, and they will fight everything that the large chart says. And we love these guys because these are the people that are going to allow you to get into the market at the best of the best spot. These are the people where rule number 3 is going to define exactly where the market is most likely to continue. But we do it on a smaller chart because inside of this one bar that says we're going up with strength and haven't hit anything, the small crowd is going to create a little pullback right to an area. And this is where you're going to pinpoint your entries through rule number 3. This is how you're going to reduce risk, and this is how you're going to maximize your profit potential. So allow it to be simple, brand new users. 3 rules, 2 charts, focus on becoming a chart reader, and then the world is your oyster. But everything starts with strong triggers. And strong triggers in an uptrend. This is one of the easiest cheats, I think, is in order to have strong triggers, your background, your small triggers, the fast-moving average, and the large triggers, the slow-moving average, they all have to be green. If they're not, you do not have strong triggers. You do not have rule number 1 met. Strong triggers means that your small triggers have broken above the large triggers, that there is space between the two. I'd like you to picture scissors opening, prepared to cut. Here, let's make the picture. We're going to draw a lot today. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to take my pen, and I want you to picture each trigger line is like the blade of scissors. And when your scissors open, well, you can get some cutting done, right? And it's the gap between the two that lets me know that the odds are favorable for the market to continue up. That's your strong trigger look. And then in a downtrend, it's no different. It's just going the other direction. Your scissors are open. It's okay to be amazed at my scissor drawing abilities. And that gap in between those scissors open lets me know that the odds are favorable for the market to continue down. So what you run into is odds favorable momentum. And we're going to say that all day in class, guys. And strong triggers should lead the way. Strong triggers should be the basis for really everything that you do. Strong triggers will push that market. Strong triggers will break key Fibonacci areas, or at least have the potential to. Strong triggers, man, they just set the tone. And strong triggers are rule number 1 being met. So is everybody comfortable with that? Let's go to the live market and let's just see if we can find strong triggers. This is the S&P. When I have separation between the small and the large, when everything says up, it's the absolute best of the best. Guys, this is when on that smaller chart, I'm going to buy Fibonacci support. On this large chart, they look like tails. They look like wicks. That's that retracement process on a smaller, faster chart. So that is strong triggers to the upside, a market that's likely to continue in the direction of the trend. This is strong triggers to the downside. Once again, letting me know that the odds are favorable for this market to continue down. And guys, I don't think it's unclear that the market does exactly that. Is everybody okay with this look? Strong triggers are the cornerstone for the easiest trade. Strong triggers give you the highest advantage because when they're screaming to the downside, that's when you guys are looking to buy or sell Fibonacci support or resistance on that smaller, faster chart. So strong triggers is rule number 1. But as you grow with the software, as you begin to recognize more and more patterns, more and more advantages, when one of the small triggers breaks inside of the large, you'll be able to say to yourself through chart reading, hey, this momentum is slowing. I no longer have odds favorable momentum, but I still have momentum. If all my charts agree, I'll still look for an opportunity. And then when the small triggers work inside of the large triggers, and I want you guys, let's go back to the picture here. When the small triggers work inside of the large triggers, I want you to notice, that your scissors have closed. It's no longer able to cut. The scissors are closed. The momentum is gone. We call this a weakening of the large triggers. And when you have weakened large triggers, anything can happen up or down. Trading is about advantages. And if anything can happen up or down, I don't have my advantage. I'm a big fan of language. Odds favorable, anything can happen. So anything can happen. There may be opportunities in there, but you're going to have to be a chart reader. You're going to have to manage aggressively. You're going to have to be able to recognize change fast. And anything can happen triggers when they hit a key area. Guys, this is when you lose the advantage of a clear path. So you're going to be able to use trigger lines not only to determine strength, you're also going to use trigger lines to recognize what we call termination conditions, areas that are likely to stop the market. And that's your segue to rule number 2. Rule number 2 says don't trade into an area likely to stop the market. And when you don't, it means that you're going to have room to your profit targets. And when you have room to your profit targets, guys, we're just going to call it a clear path. It takes less typing. Once again, your large chart is going to define these areas that have the potential to stop the market. Your large chart is going to tell you if you've reached one. And the areas that may stop the market are divergence high lines and divergence low lines and red Fibonacci resistance, blue Fibonacci support, yellow 1-to-1s. But this is a roadmap for what you're looking at. But it's just lines on a chart. That's all it is. And the recipe for understanding when these lines have the potential to stop the market is really easy. But you're going to understand by using the trigger lines if these areas are likely to stop the market. So for example, weak triggers coming into the areas. If they have the potential to break when all of that momentum is carrying the market through these key areas, or if they've already broken when both the small and the large get to the other side, letting you know that you have a clear path to get to that next area. You're going to understand all this stuff. You're going to be able to recognize it in a fraction of a second. And it all begins with the recipe. Let price reach the area. These key areas are where decisions are made. These key areas are where these guys are saying to themselves, hey, I just reached resistance, let's exit the trade. And there may be another large crowd that says, hey, there's our key number, let's enter short against everybody going long. And there are decisions and fights that are made at these key areas. There are decisions about taking profits, decisions about entering trades. And it's by the people with the money. That's Norbert. These are the guys making decisions, guys. And the closer that you are to these key areas without advantages, the less likely you are to win. So I like to think of myself, I'm a remora. When I reach one of these areas, I'm going to let these guys fight it out. I'm going to see what their reaction is. So the recipe for termination conditions is let price reach the area, set off the decision-making process. If you reach support and the triggers remain above, no more short trades into that area. It's likely to stop the market. It has the potential to stop the market. Up here you see it as well. Price reached support and the triggers were above. And you just don't know whether or not it's going to stop the market, but you know that it has the potential. Once the small and the large get to the other side of an area, well, then that area is broken. And once that area is broken, guys, that path is clear until you reach the next key area. So I've got odds favorable momentum and it breaks through support. You'll notice that my small and large triggers get to the other side of support. It behaves as resistance. With that momentum and the clear path, you guys are going to be able to pinpoint that tail, that entry on a smaller, faster chart. This is going to become your entry for the highest probability trend trade. Notice that we don't just jump in. We wait for the retracements, guys, because that's where the easiest trades are. That's where the lowest risk is. That's where the highest profit potential is. Is everybody comfortable with the very simple approach? There is a divergence low line. Price reached it. The triggers remained above. No more short trades. And off it goes to the upside. There's yellow 1-to-1s. Price reached it. Absolutely no triggers broke through. And look at the retracement. And then it comes back up. And it hits that divergence high line and resistance. All the triggers are below. And guys, that's what set the market off down. If you go back and you scroll just a little bit, weak triggers at resistance, weak triggers at support, right into resistance, right off of resistance, right off of support, it becomes amazing because you begin to trust the idea that if price reaches an area and the triggers don't break, your best bet is to do absolutely nothing. Is everybody good with that? Erla's good, Paul's good, I like it. So for the brand new user, two options. Price reaches the area, no triggers break. Sit on your hands, don't do a damn thing. Your advantage is gone. There is no clear path. Once the small and the large get above the area, man, that path is clear. Let's look for odds favorable momentum. Let's see if we can refine an entry on a smaller, faster chart. You have a clear path and room to your target. So for you guys that are brand new, use guys. Give me 20 days. Commit to the best of the best, right? And then your ability to read charts is going to put you into your first medium probability trade. And a medium probability trade means that most of your indicators line up for a trade, however a small issue exists. And I want you guys to embrace the singular there. A small issue, not some small issues, not a few issues, but a small issue exists. Your first medium probability trade will be the issue of an area that isn't broken yet. So when you reach an area and none of the triggers break, it tells you, let's pause for a second, but we know that momentum can break areas. So when your small triggers absolutely smash through an area, but your large triggers are lagging behind, they haven't gotten to the other side yet, with odds favorable momentum, with the best of the best look in your trigger lines, this is an area with the potential to break. But because the large triggers aren't above yet, it's not broken, which means that it's not a clear path, which means that rule number 2 is not met, which means that if you decide to take this trade, it's not a high probability trade. This is your first medium probability trade. And medium probability trades need to be managed aggressively. You need to make sure that you have the momentum, that you're not giving anything up beyond that clear path. So that'll be your next trade. Let's go back to termination conditions though. And guys, we just saw this one. If you don't think patterns repeat themselves, this is 2021 Ninja Trader. 2021 is when this picture was taken. 841 is when the exact same pattern happened in the live market. So this kind of reinforces the idea that we're just trading patterns. That's all it is. And once your pattern recognition is up there, you're going to find opportunity. So if the market goes down and up, that's called a pivot. If the market goes up and down, that's called a pivot. And pivots are just pivots, guys. It's nothing else. If there is a loss of momentum at a pivot, meaning that momentum just doesn't follow price, well, you're going to see this cyan line print from a lower. You're going to see a magenta line print from a high. This is nothing more than a loss of momentum. You don't even know about it until like the third bar. There's some calculations that happen behind the scenes. This loss of momentum just means that there was a loss of momentum. Don't give it any more power than that. Don't believe that there's some catastrophic failure that's imminent. Don't believe that the market has to rocket up because there was just a loss of momentum, guys. This is nothing more than taking your foot off the accelerator. You're still cruising at 70 miles an hour on the highway. It's when price reaches the line. Everybody remembers the recipe. When price reaches the line and the triggers remain above, well, it's a termination condition. No more short trades. And this termination condition turns into what we call a pivot stop out, which is powerful. And a pivot stop out may reverse the market. And it just means that price went below that divergence high and back above. But the rules are very clear. No more short trades into a pivot stop out. It's a powerful termination condition. And it becomes even more powerful when it coincides with Fibonacci resistance. So check it out. There's a pivot stop out coming from the middle of nowhere. Well, that was enough to reverse the market. There was a pivot stop out from Fibonacci resistance, and that market absolutely railed to the downside, and it went from termination to termination. And you guys have a recipe to never get caught going short into this area or never get caught going long into that area because your rules will never be met. Here it creates a pivot stop out, and it's just enough to give it a shove down to take you out of a potential long. But now they seem to be correcting. They seem to be pushing up again. maybe don't have rules met, but at least you have the awareness of not going short. So I love that. And then my favorite picture, I probably say 100 times a day that 90% of your day is reading indicators, that 90% of your day is being patient, learning to sit on your hands and do nothing when there's nothing to do. And we all have to learn this lesson. We have to learn it the hard way typically. Because what happens is the market starts and it's going down and you see momentum and you're excited and you want to trade and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and your rules never get met. And I'm going to tell you, this is a little frustrating in the beginning because for whatever reason, you egomaniacs believe that every move in the market needs to be your move. And the reality is it's not. So what happens is the market goes all the way down and it reaches these yellow 1-to-1s and the trigger lines remain above and your rules say stop. And this is where new users tend to break their rules. This is where new users say, man, they didn't pay me for 100 points or whatever. I'm just going to hope this area breaks. But the rules are very clear. They say don't go short. And it's awesome because that one rule keeps you from taking a loser. And then the market bounces huge. And your brain is going to tell you, whoa, wait a minute. If I can't go short, I should probably go long up here. But you're right into resistance and all the triggers are below and your rules say no. And you're going to say, well, shoot, I can't go long and I can't go short. But look, the background is green. I'm going to go long. And you're going to get stopped. And the triggers don't match. And man, this market is just wonky. And that's like 45 minutes worth of not doing a darn thing. This is your 90%, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where you have the ability to lose nothing. It costs nothing to not be in a trade when your rules aren't met. And your patience is typically rewarded. And this goes back, and I'm going to read exactly what Muser typed because this is the favorite thing that I've read in a long time. Instead of manufacturing trades, one comes to me. And the one that comes to you is the 10%. The result of having momentum, the result of all of your trigger lines getting above resistance and turning it into support, and the result of being able to pinpoint your entry on that smaller, faster chart. And guys, this is the trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time. This is the trade that creates confidence through the memory of success. And this is the trade, on this particular trade, that was probably about a $450 winner. And that $450 winner is most of your goals for the day, or at least right up on it. But that $450 means absolutely nothing if your opinion cost you $1,000. You're still down money. And one of the biggest lessons, one of the strongest points that I like to make is that it costs nothing to do nothing. And it may not be your winners that set you up for long-term success, but rather your ability to avoid unnecessary losers. So termination conditions, guys, they're huge. And there's even those 50-50 opportunities in there as well. Is everybody comfortable with termination conditions? Are we feeling good about it? There's reasons to go short and there's reasons not to go short, right? Momentum carries me. Momentum, look at this. We have momentum and a clear path. I wonder. We'll come back and see it. We'll come back and look at it. Before we do, let's do this, guys. Let's talk about one more termination condition. Let's talk about a termination condition that you're going to see on the small chart. This is the only termination condition that I will ever see on a small chart. The only time I will look at my entry chart and say that I don't have a clear path is when 3 divergences print in the same price range. 3 losses of momentum in the same price range. It may terminate the trend. It may stop the trend. It may create an untradeable bounce. It might create just a small push, but the reality is that 3 divergences in the same price range may terminate the trend. It becomes more powerful with those anything can happen triggers. It becomes more powerful still when that third pivot's higher than the second from a low, or that third pivot is lower than the second from a high, giving you that head and shoulders pattern. As a brand new user, you're going to use this look to determine, well, I shouldn't go short anymore. There's 3 divergences. I shouldn't go long anymore. There's 3 divergences. Rule number 2 isn't met. I don't have a clear path. You're going to be able to use this look to see the change that you can't see on a large chart. The large chart can't tell you when it's turning on a dime. It's just too big, too slow. So 3 divergences from a low keeps you out of that last short, and 3 divergences from a high keeps you from hoping that that long works. And these 3 divergences are the only termination condition that I respect on the small chart, because I use lines on the large chart to decide where the market is likely to stop. I use lines on the large chart to determine when the path is clear and when it's not. That's where rule number 2 comes in. I use lines on the small chart to determine my entries. I use lines on the small chart to determine when I have enough of an advantage to enter. And let's, just for grins, maybe we can get a real world. Remember when I said when you have odds favorable and a clear path, you'll be able to pinpoint where these tails are most likely to happen? Well, that was a pullback to support right inside of favorable large triggers. And what happened inside of this one bar on the large chart happens in all of these bars on the small chart. Notice that you didn't have 3 divergences. Notice that it pulled right back to a line right inside of triggers, guys. This is exactly what we're teaching. It starts with momentum, and it starts with a clear path. And once you have those 2 advantages, you guys are going to be able to pinpoint pullbacks to areas inside of favorable large triggers. And if you circle that tail, we'll go a little wider, you'll notice that it lines up with the tail on the large chart, guys. And this was an opportunity to make a little cash right up until that 3rd divergence printed. So rule number 3 is going to pinpoint entries, guys. Rule number 3 is going to have you using a small chart, a refinement chart, to buy or sell a pullback. Remember that fight that the small crowd creates? That's called a pullback, that little retracement counter to everything going up. We rely on this pullback so that we can reduce risk. We rely on this pullback so that we can increase our profit potential. And this pullback needs to happen at areas. The way we used areas on the large chart to define trouble, we're going to use areas on the small chart to define a bounce point. But the key is that we want those areas to be inside of triggers. We want them to be inside of trigger lines. Your trigger lines are nothing more than moving averages, guys. And your moving averages are where I expect the small crowd to return price, if that makes sense. Once that small crowd starts fighting, I expect them to push price back to that moving average. It's the regression of the mean, I think somebody called it once. I could be wrong on that. The trigger lines alone are not enough to give me an entry. The trigger lines are like clouds. I expect that airplane to fly to the clouds. Or I expect that tennis ball to fly through the fog. We're going to give areas inside of those favorable large triggers to give the market something to bounce off of. And this is how you guys are going to pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue. This is how you're going to be able to determine your entries, how you're going to be able to reduce risk, how you're going to be able to maximize profit potential. And then so for new users, I've added this picture to the lesson. When your large triggers and your synthetic triggers are one on top of the other, when they are overlapping, that is the smallest correction point ever. That is the smallest point where we expect price to go. And again, I don't expect it to stop the market, but when they're one on top of the other, it gives me the smallest space to put an area, to put a fib, to put a midband, to put a yellow 1-to-1, or the combination of them. And that's how you guys are going to define where the market is most likely to continue, from the areas inside of favorable large triggers. And the more those triggers separate, you have effectively doubled your correction points. Is it going to go from the high one or the low one? Guys, there's no way of telling. As you grow with the software, as you learn to read your charts, you may take a couple risks on these split triggers. But for the brand new user, one on top of the other is your best chance for success. So let's go through an entry together. Step one says wait for the reversal bar, guys. When the rules are met on the large chart, wait for the reversal bar on the small chart. Wait for the small crowd to fight. This reversal bar is not your entry. And that's a pretty common mistake, just getting the language down. I see people entering on the reversal bar, but the reversal bar just signals the beginning of the pullback. Once the reversal bar prints, your first order of business is to find your favorable large triggers. From the large and the synthetic, guys, the tighter they are, the smaller this box will be. You're going to draw a box from the lowest point of the triggers to the highest point of the triggers. Whether it's large and synthetic, synthetic and large, it doesn't matter. Good morning, Cindy. It's okay. You be late. My entry is not the pullback to the triggers because it's just a correction spot. So once I've identified my triggers, I'm going to find the areas within. And guys, this is how you're going to create your window of opportunity. This is how you're going to pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue. You're going to do it by identifying your lowest point of resistance to your highest point of resistance. And the resistance can be red Fibonacci, magenta midbands, yellow 1-to-1s. And the key is that they are inside of favorable large triggers. And there's a reason that that is in all caps, because the triggers provide a correction point. The areas provide a bounce point inside of them. So once you identify your highest to lowest, this box is your window of opportunity. This box is where the market is most likely to continue. You are literally going to activate a limit order. You're going to right click on your chart and you're going to activate a limit order and you're going to say, I've done all I can do. And if the small crowd can get all the way up to this limit order, well then I'm going to be in a short trade, and I'm going to be in a short trade with the advantage of momentum. I'm going to be in a short trade having a clear path, nothing between me and my targets, and I'm in a short trade having entered where the market is most likely to continue. And guys, this entry should be your focus for the first 20 days, because this is the entry when the rules are met that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time. This is the trade that creates an enormous amount of confidence based on the success that it brings. This is the trade that teaches you to read your charts. This is the one that has you identifying momentum, and you begin to say to yourself every time you look at your charts, this is my best look for a long. And it has you identifying the clear path, and it says, man, with that momentum, and I haven't hit an area, I can't wait to take a long trade. Let me look right. And let me find areas inside of favorable large triggers, and let me pinpoint exactly where the market is most likely to continue. And we don't trade these tails, guys. We don't trade these wicks. What we trade is areas inside of favorable large triggers. So identifying this area, whether it's a long trade, the recipe never changes. Reversal bar begins the pullback. Red box, identify your triggers. Blue box, identify the areas within. Activate your limit order at the top. And you'll notice that this tells you that this fib beyond the triggers is not in your window of opportunity. It's beyond the correction point, guys. And if the market moves down there, you've lost your edge. The same thing is true short, guys. The reversal bar gets it going. Identify your triggers, identify your areas. That's where your limit order goes, just below the lowest point. And then once again, these areas beyond the correction point, guys, these are outside of the window. This is not at all where I want to try to enter the market, because I have lost my edge. I've blown through the correction point. And once you understand where the market is likely to continue, guys, you also understand where the market shouldn't go. This is your first step in management, is once you can identify a window of opportunity, the point where the market is most likely to continue, you can say to yourself, if it goes 4 or 5 ticks beyond that window, I no longer want to be in the trade. Typically beyond the trigger lines, beyond the correction point, 4 or 5 ticks. And you create this willingness to get stopped out. And I'll tell you guys, you're going to get stopped out. You will lose trades. They are, Pedro, if you allow them to be. If you allow them to be, they are. What's hard is waiting for it to set up. Guys, if it hits your stop, you're out. It's a cost of doing business. You had every advantage. Be okay with stops, but make sure that you take the right losers. Make sure that the advantages were in place. Make sure that it was a pattern. that repeats itself, that gives you the highest chance of success. And then you'll literally find this they have to come get me attitude. These guys are going to have to come beyond the window of opportunity to pull me out of this trade. And even more so, with a high probability trend trade, 70 to 80% of the time, you're probably going to get that reversal bar in the direction of the trade, and you're going to reduce your risk a tick or two above or a tick or two below those reversal bars. And I love it because it means that even the ones that don't work, very often there's some reaction to those areas, which means you get to minimize your risk, which means that you have the opportunity to take the smallest losses possible. And when you're taking a trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time, it creates the highest chance for opportunity. And I want you guys to see this now. And I'm sorry, if you don't think this is kick-ass, I don't know what else I can show you. Odds favorable in a clear path. Pulls back to support inside of favorable large triggers. 2 divergences don't scare me. My rules are still met. All this is a second entry. And then the third divergence prints. And we know from the rules that 3 divergences in the same price range may terminate the trend, may create a push down, may spoil our good time. And I want you to see exactly what happened off of it. And this is exactly the statistical advantage that these rules provide for you. They create a repeatable pattern, or they react to a repeatable pattern. It's a set of rules that are determined through going back and studying and seeing this look and learning to trust it. And then it's having the exact same rules either for exit or for not entering that next long trade that begins to create a plan. So are there any questions about the high probability trend trade? Any questions about the individual pieces? And that's going to be my break into this one, guys. This is your 101 tab on your folder. And chart reading 101. This is a little bit that you can put together. This literally 4 hours worth of homework, maybe 4 hours worth of homework. And the easiest way to get to where you want to be. So I know that I have some of you guys that are brand new, right? Like Robert, welcome. Word on the street as you joined us. I'm so excited about that. And there's some of you that are on demos. And there's even some of you that are coming back and saying, man, I'm going to do it right this time. So one of the things you can do is you can go through and to get good at the looks, to get good at the advantages, to be able to recognize them at a moment's notice, go take 25 pictures of strong triggers, of weak triggers, of a clear path, of a termination, right? Go take 25 pictures of that 50-50 look. And then do 20 pictures of a long, coming right from those areas inside of favorable large triggers, and do the same for the short. But the idea, and guys, I'm telling you right now, this is foolproof. It's difficult to do this and not advance drastically. You're not just taking pictures, right? Very often we take pictures and we never do anything with them. Take the picture and annotate your charts with the whys. Talk about why it was strong triggers. Talk about what the advantage of those strong triggers is. Relate it to rule number 1 being met. And what you're going to do is if you do that for each individual picture, when you get to your 18th picture of strong triggers, you're going to be so in tune. You're going to say, this is strong triggers because the smalls are above the large. That means strength, odds favorable momentum, rule number 1. And it's almost impossible to miss this look in the live market because you've done so much research on it. And the same thing is true. This is weak triggers. And when I have weak triggers, anything can happen up or down. And when weak triggers happen at resistance, resistance is more likely to hold. And guys, look at this. It happened. And then this is a 50-50 look, which means that it only has the potential, but it hasn't broken. And you can see how it didn't break. And you can go through, guys, and if you just annotate charts and you go through the process of these 245 pictures, I can't make guarantees, but I would eat my hat if you didn't come out of this a better chart reader. So that's the first thing that I'm giving you. I've given you the rules. Well, I guess I gave you the rules. I showed you exactly what the rules look like. I have provided you a spreadsheet that gives you something to track, something to build a plan, something to look at historical, and something to build your awareness. I gave you a concrete plan to increase your awareness. And now I'm going to give you the KISS plan. And the KISS plan is the next step, taking your ability to recognize those advantages and turning it into a trade. The KISS plan is a stepping stone in your learning journey. It's designed to optimize your chances of success with the 50-50 trade and that high probability trend trade. Guys, these are hyper-conservative blanket rules. These are hyper-conservative blanket rules because you guys need to feel success. You need to feel confident. You need to feel like, yes, I trust this entry. I trust this methodology. And that's where simulation, study, class feedback, and continuous practice pays dividends. This is not the end of the road for most of you guys. You will create a plan based on your ability to read your indicators. You're going to wake up one day and you're going to say, holy shit, I know exactly what the market's telling me and I keep seeing this pattern and this is my new trade. Let me go take 100 pictures of it and see if it wins more than it loses. That's exactly how this gentleman learned to recognize this trade. And that's exactly what darn near every one of his trades look like. Because he was able to say that with momentum and with a clear path, I can bend my rules. I can create new rules for entry that allow me to take a trade that typically wins more than it loses, guys. And that's what you're doing through your understanding of the high probability trend trade. So the simple plan for consistency, that's not even a word. It should be though, right? That sounds kind of fun. For consistency, consistency is what I had in my 20s. Never fight the large chart. Don't fight the momentum. Don't trade into the areas. Your simple plan for consistency means that you believe wholeheartedly that the large chart leads the way and there's no reason to fight it. And then you're going to define your entry, guys. You're going to use those simple rules, those simple looks, and you're going to define your entry. And notice that it is highlighted and it's personalized and it's not Ron's entry or Zorro's entry or Robert's entry. It can't even be Cindy or Cav's entry. It has to be your entry. You have to believe in your rules. And amen. By the time you know the high probability trend trade by heart, you will have seen other trades. And what's cool is you're going to begin to recognize it and you'll be like, wow, I didn't realize this could happen. So this is the checklist for entry on the high probability trend trade. And one thing that is 100% true is I've never had anybody follow the checklist and do worse than 70%. So I will also give you a checklist that you can print out and put on your desktop. When you write these rules on the chart, you'll never have to ask if that was a good trade. Was that the right trade? You'll be able to ask yourself, were the rules met for that trade? And right on the KISS plan, there's pictures of each of the rules being met, so you know exactly what you're looking for. And your first 20 days, guys, your first 20 days is just figuring out the entries, figuring out where the market's most likely to continue, getting into the market at the best of the best spot, because once you can do that, trades become manageable. Once you can get in at the right spot, and let's show you. Once you say to yourself, the large chart says look for an entry, and you wait for the reversal bar on the small chart, and you identify your trigger lines on the small chart, and you refine it even further to the areas within the trigger lines, and you take that best of the best entry right at the top of the window. That went pretty quick, I know, but this is on your spreadsheet. You can go back and study it slowly. Once you can identify this spot, well, then it's time to manage the trades, because if the market comes and gets you, then you are already in where the market is most likely to continue, or you are in at the absolute best of the best spot. You have the highest chance of success. You're in a trade that typically wins 70 to 80% of the time. You've identified where the market is most likely to continue, and you've put your initial stop where the market shouldn't go. And there is nothing for you to do at this point. You're either going to get stopped out, right? It's a normal part of a positive equity curve, guys. Mathematics says that anything that wins 70 to 80% of the time, it's obligated to lose 20 to 30% of the time. You don't get to pick which 20 to 30%. Just know that every 10 times I do this, 2 or 3 of them are going to smack me dead in the clackers, right? And it's just a cost of doing business. So you're either going to get stopped out or it's going to give you that reversal bar in the direction of the trade. And you're going to say to yourself, man, the momentum is working. The clear path is paying dividends. That great entry created a place to bounce. Life is good. Let me put my stop 2 ticks above that reversal bar. And I will say to myself, if they want that stop, they're going to have to come get it. They're going to have to get their poop in a group and go north all the way to my stop. Otherwise, I'm doing nothing until my first target gets hit. And then your first target in the KISS plan, guys, is only $100. And if you looked at the 2 pictures that I just showed, both of those were $100 trades on multiple contracts, resulting in $400 or $500 trades. Cav just came in and said he's been doing base hits, and it really works for him as well. There's this misconception that to be a successful trader, your trades have to be $500, $600, $700 trades, that you have to make $1,000 a pop. And the reality is that you don't. You don't at all, guys. If you make $100 5 times during the day, you're doing $126,000 a year in business. So you're going to get paid. The money's going to go in the account. You're going to go break even, and that's doing nothing more than establishing trust in the large chart to get the job done. So you're either going to get stopped out, break even, or it's going to hit your second target. And your second target for the KISS plan for the brand new user is a $200 in the distance, which means that if this trade goes all the way to your second target, you just made $300. And $300, let's do the math. That's a $1,500 week. That doesn't suck, guys. That's a $6,000 month, and that's a $72,000 year based on 2 contracts with the most conservative, highest probability, absolutely pragmatic management known to man, or at least to this classroom. And that's it. And man, bump that up to a 4 lot and impart the exact same plan. And suddenly it's 144, right? And then you're going to hit a 6 lot with your profits and an 8 lot and a 10 lot. And you're going to continue this process of just becoming better and better. And then the cool thing is should you decide, you will create a plan based on your goals and your experience reading the indicators, which means that when you have strong triggers, when you have a clear path, suddenly that last contract's running for $300 or $400, and it's effortless because you believe in the advantages. And it's all about building a foundation. And your foundation can be the KISS plan. Your foundation can be the very basic management. And then that takes you to the medium probability trade that we talked about, guys. The medium probability trade is that 50-50 trade, that when you have the potential to break. And I'm going to say it one more time. This plan is designed to optimize your chances of success. The 50-50 trade is the most lost trade among new users because they forfeit more and more advantages. And when I say that, what I mean, where's my little slide sheet? I wish everybody would make one of these because I think this is probably my favorite tool when I'm looking for trades. And you'll get to the point to where you think about it yourself, right? And you don't have to have this little slide rule. But until that happens, why not have one? Print it out. Make a little square of paper. If termination conditions, if I don't have a clear path, right? And rule number 2 isn't met. The KISS plan is designed to have you focused on not sacrificing an ounce of momentum. Because when I start to give up momentum, I'm really starting to give up too many of my advantages. And it's designed to have you entering the same type of entry as the high probability trend trade at the absolute best of the best spot. Because once again, if I don't have a clear path, if I don't have that second rule met, rules 1 and 3 are going to be mandatory for me. And what you'll find as you grow is maybe with a clear path in an entry area, you're willing to sacrifice momentum. And maybe with momentum and a clear path, you'll take a different approach on your entry area. And what this does, speaking to yourself in terms of advantages, is it lets you know what you're doing without. and it lets you know what you should be focusing on to have the better chance of success with the trade. So this 50-50 trade doesn't have a clear path. And the first thing it says is one area not broken, not 7 areas not broken, not 2 fibs and 1-to-1s and a divergence line not broken, but just one area. Don't make them work that hard. The market needs to be coming from a termination that creates a reversal, a good top or bottom. So if you don't understand a good top or bottom as described in the high probability trend trade, well, then you will have difficulty taking this trade with the best chance of success. And then you have to have momentum on the large and the small chart. And if you don't understand trigger lines and odds favorable momentum, once again, you'll have challenges taking this next trade, this more advanced trade. And then it says no divergence on the 5-1. And if you can't identify divergence, it's going to be hard for you. And if you don't realize that divergence prints on the 3rd line, then you may jump the gun, right? If you know you have to wait to see if divergence prints, you can't enter on the 2nd bar because then you risk breaking your rules. And then because it's not a clear path, it reminds you a second time, no divergence, no trade. And you'll grow from this, guys. You will create a plan tailored to your goals based on your ability reading the chart. But this right here is the best of the best. And then you'll have to manage it differently as well, guys. You're going to have to manage it like it's not a high probability trend trade, like you don't have every advantage under the sun. You're going to have to manage it more aggressively. You're going to have to take quick profits. You're going to have to get out at trouble spots. And guys, the KISS plan is an amazing way to stay on top of things, to stay focused, to give yourself the best chance of success. The KISS plan is in no way the end of the road for you guys. Because like Ron said, once you know that KISS plan, once you know that high probability trend trade, other trades will just mysteriously evolve and create, and you'll be like, whoa, look at all these advantages. And there's just that one little thing against me. I'm going to take this trade. So if we look at the live market, guys, what direction is the market going? So new users, talk to me for a second. The background is red. Should we be looking for long trades or short trades? Is the market going up or down? Give me a U or a D. Cool. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break. When I come back, we'll start looking at your charts and answering your questions. If you have a question, post it. If you have a chart, post it. Make sure you annotate it. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Go stretch your legs. Pretty. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it. Before we go to your charts, I want you to see something. Just a pivot. This is not a termination condition, guys. This is nothing more than a loss of momentum. When price reaches, if it does, and the triggers remain below, then this becomes a termination condition. Then this becomes an area with the potential to stop the market. So understanding the difference between the two may be helpful. I'm going to scroll up to the top of the room. We're going to start looking at some charts, guys. If you have questions, post them. If you have comments, post them. If you have needs, let me know what they are and let me help you out with them. David posted this one. David said that's a termination and it reverses the market, guys. And that's the definition for a strong top, a good top, is when a termination condition with absolutely no triggers through reverses the market. From this termination condition, it creates odds favorable momentum, guys. That's rule number one being met. And then we hit these yellow 1-to-1s and the triggers don't break. And there's two ways to look at this. As the brand new user, as the KISS user, you've reached a termination condition and that's where you pump the brakes and you just say, man, I don't have a clear path. I don't want to hope it breaks. I really want to see the small triggers get below so that I have a better chance taking the trade. As a more experienced user, you're going to say to yourself, the strength of a termination condition that reverses the market may have me taking what could be a low risk opportunity to go with the short, go with that momentum. So for the brand new user, David, 100% spot on. You want to see the smalls break through. Guys, 30 days in, you're gonna say to yourself, oh man, I'm going short from these 1-to-1s. Nothing's gonna stop me. So, and that'll totally be up to you. But the chart read is great, David, and I know that you're probably going to watch this later on YouTube. Identifying terminations that reverse the market sets you up for success going the other way. And then Joel, strong triggers, the best momentum ever. And when it breaks out above, the one thing, Joel, that I would say about this one, and this is beautiful, right? Momentum on 3 charts is amazing. One of the things on these trades, guys, when you're looking for these momentum trades, one of the rules, if you're a rule follower, is that you allow your small triggers to break through the area and then take the pullback. And you kind of had that happen back to support, and this is one of those ones where you may have to take a chance. You may have to say to yourself, man, it's not quite broken through, but with divergence on every chart, and I haven't reached the mid-band yet, I'm willing to take a shot. I'm willing to drop my stop behind that reversal bar or behind that tail, and I'll try and ride that momentum up. Joel, it's a beautiful read. And then this is the one that kind of illustrates that best of the best entry a little more. Momentum on 3 charts, breaking out of the key areas. And you see, everybody, how the small triggers break through. And then there's that opportunity to sell that snapback. And guys, this is a momentum trade. Joel, that's the best of the best. This is the one that tends to work out more. And what I find is that when you let those small triggers work their way through, those are the ones that tend not to come back and turn into a trend trade. Does that make sense? Great reads, man. Absolutely great reads. Dude, you're doing great. And I think it's pretty cool that you have turned over and you're really recognizing these momentum trades pretty easy. And everybody finds their thing. And then Paul W., I'm just going to do both of them so I can go to the bottom if there's any comments. Weak bottom, didn't quite hit support. Right? It's a 50-50 that failed. It's a termination condition that never broke, is exactly what happened here. And then the market does turn. And man, when you are this far beyond and everything is screaming up, what you're looking at here is the best of the best coming from a pivot stop out with all the momentum, the potential to break, strong triggers in a tiny little window. And Paul, this may be one that you take in the future. And I think what this chart does is it gives you a pattern that gives you an opportunity to know exactly where you should take this chance. So Paul, are you with me in here? And guys, this is for everybody. Notice how there's two divergences on the small chart. And some of you are going, but Mark, two divergences says don't take the 50-50. And you're right if you're following the KISS plan. Two divergences, right? A pivot stop out on the small chart. I want you to see something cool. The expectation from the pivot stop out is that it'll probably take out the previous pivot. So let's write this on here because this is a pretty cool chart read. When I get a pivot stop out on the small chart, but the large chart is giving me everything I need to go long. And that's the key right there, that the large chart is giving you everything that you need to go long. Rules met. Very often, a PSO from above creates a PSO below. And then continuation with the large chart. So, if there is an area inside of favorable large triggers at that PSO spot, it's a good shot for an entry. Does that make sense, Paul? And really everybody. And this is a pattern that repeats itself a lot, guys. And this is one of those things that I would share it and go to my spreadsheet. And under patterns that repeat themselves, I would go ahead and drop one in there. And I would say, I don't know, what would you call that? Small chart PSO for entry? Then I could come back and look at this and I could say, okay, hold on. That's a thing. And maybe this 5-1 PSO, oh my gosh, that's a thing as well. That's the same thing. This is a pattern that repeats itself. Two divergences on the 5-1. Holy smokes, it did it again. So guys, this is how you start to build plans, and this is how you begin to create new plans. And I want to say that there was one here. Took the first shot with a reversal bar, two divergences, gave me the pivot stop out right at the area, and then I was able to take that next entry and run it all the way up to my target. So this pattern set me up for this pattern that set me up for this entry. And true story, I got slipped 7 bars. This is the NASDAQ. NASDAQ goes quick. So the exact same lesson. Notice that it never made it up to the pivot stop out. The trend was down, the large were down. Never made it. Good stuff. Great picture, Paul. And then your second picture was, oh, just about the bottom. Mislabeled it as a weak bottom. It's still a weak bottom. And Paul, let's do the recipe for strong tops and bottoms real quick. And this is a great picture for it. So a strong top or a good top is a no triggers through term that reverses the market. And there was no need for a comma there, but I put it there anyway. So check it out. There's your no triggers through termination. That's where the market reverses. So here's your term. There's where it becomes a strong top. And it happens pretty far down there. And the same thing is true right here. There is your no triggers through termination at 1-to-1s. There's where it reverses the market. So this kind of reminds me that even a strong bottom or a strong top isn't necessarily the thing that's going to set the market on fire and guarantee success. And what we have here, Paul, is we do have the pivot stop out that didn't break, right? But because the triggers got through, we are going to keep it labeled as a weak bottom or not a good bottom. It still reverses the market. It still gives great momentum. But because it's not a no triggers through termination, for the very, very basic we will keep this one labeled a weak bottom. Does that make sense? Because the idea behind strong tops or bottoms, this is going to be the next little blog thing that I do, is that a decision was made right at a key area that was powerful enough to reverse the market. So when that happens, when the triggers can't get through, man, it sells it. It sells that idea. So right here, we have a termination condition. Price reached and the triggers haven't broken yet. If this reverses the market, that will become a strong top. So let's go to a live market and find a couple examples. And this is perfect. So this is crude oil. Look how often this happens. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. All right. And we'll take this picture. Here's our first one. So let's go through the recipe in our head. Or let's type it out. A strong top or bottom is a no triggers through the area. That is a term. That reverses the market, meaning large triggers, pinch and roll. So what happens in the first divergence, hold on, let me see. Price will never touch the divergence. Paul, price will never touch the divergence. Price creates the divergence. Does that make sense? So this divergence, price created. Price comes down. Triggers exceed the divergence. Triggers exceed the yellow 1-to-1, but the large triggers never break. When the market pivots and goes back up, right about here on the third bar, that's when the next divergence prints. This has nothing to do with it, just a loss of momentum. If price came back below and went back up, then you'd have that termination again. So I don't know what you're calling second price, second divergence. Price reached divergence. Does that make sense? Sometimes I talk in circles, and I certainly don't mean to. Well, I'm very confident of that, but I want to make sure that it makes sense to you. Okay. Totally a termination condition, 100%. You read it beautifully. But because those triggers got through, we're not going to call it a strong bottom. Same reason, no triggers through. There's your reversal, strong top. Triggers made it through, even with the reversal, not a strong bottom. When I don't have a strong bottom, that's more likely to hold. There's your termination. There's your reversal, strong top. So I've got strong top, weak bottom, strong top, weak bottom, no triggers through, strong top, no triggers through. Notice the path here as well, everybody. A weak bottom pushes right up to the strong top that takes it out, and the weak bottom pushes right up to the strong top, and you're just continuing the trend. And the fact that the triggers aren't stopping right at an area creates a pretty big advantage. And then as it comes down, we are currently on the potential to break, but not broken. And we're just going to wait and see what happens here. Maybe it goes up, maybe it doesn't. We'll have to wait for our rules to be met. I hope that made sense. And guys, if it doesn't make sense, all you have to do is tell me, and I will do my best to come up with a different way to say it. And then Muser, absolutely perfect, termination, odds favorable, clear path, ideal entry. There's that pivot stop out again, guys. Muser, do you see it? Paul, do you see it? All you guys looking for those small chart entries, Second divergence takes out the previous pivot. It lines up with resistance inside of favorable large triggers. And Muser, you're absolutely right. That's the easy one. That's the best of the best. And the fact that you weren't in front of the market means that it just wasn't your money today. But the fact that you came through and you identified it means that you're more likely to catch it if you are in front of the market. And I would encourage you, even on these that you're like, oh, it was perfect. Go through the process of writing why it was perfect, guys. And this is a great drill for you new users. Never give up the opportunity to annotate. So this is a strong top because no triggers through and it reversed the market. That is odds favorable momentum. It didn't hit the one-to-ones, so it's a clear path. And it's a pullback to resistance inside of favorable large triggers. Guys, this is rules met 100%. And if you go through and you annotate it, well, you're more likely to catch it next time. And I know that you weren't in front of it, but it's pretty cool, guys. The annotation creates the understanding. The annotation creates the association between the rules and the looks. And that's the easiest way to get to where you want to be, the absolute fastest. And Paul, you tried a momentum. Let's see what you did. Tried a momentum, suddenly realized 13.2 had lost momentum. I like it. Entered below the fib. However, the 21.3 is very strong short, giving the loss of a 13.2. Carry momentum strength is carry through, which it has. 11 tick stop needed to stay alive in this trade. So, Paul, I love that you're branching out. And this is where one of the most profound things my brother said to me, and it really made sense to me. He said, if you can't show me momentum on 3 charts, it's not a momentum trade. Plain and simple. If you can't show me momentum on 3 charts, it's not a momentum trade. That's what he said to me because I was getting my butt handed to me on these trades. So if this were my chart and my brother were pointing it out, he'd say, Mark, you lost momentum here. And then he'd say, Mark, your smalls are inside of the large here. So we can't label this a momentum trade just because your 21 had momentum. And man, it's kept me out of a lot. But here's the deal, is the 21 was absolutely screaming. And do you notice, whoops, hold on, wrong one, that it pulls right back to resistance, right at the triggers that lines up with the area that is broken on the large chart. So you have a loss of momentum, but you have an entry area, which means that you're kind of rolling based on this big fib being broken, all the triggers below, everything says down, the market's been trending, and you have an entry area as well, and you knew exactly where your stop had to go. And Paul, this trade is absolutely brilliant, even if we can't label it a momentum trade. So how do you manage a trade that is a medium probability trend trade? Well, you wait for something to go wrong, right? You wait for the market to tell you, hey, Paul, guess what? Now I have divergence and weakness and no areas inside of favorable large triggers. Why don't you go ahead and get paid and wait for the next beautiful one? And Paul, I love this chart. And when I nitpick you guys and say it's not a momentum trade, it's not because I don't like the trade. It's because if you take a momentum trade without momentum, well then that's kind of weird, right? That's like saying I'm taking a trend trade when there's absolutely no trend, or I'm taking a long trade, but I'm going to sell it to make it happen. It's a beautiful trade, Paul. And then that is a termination, right? And this is odds favorable. And there's room to get to the trouble area. And and you have odds favorable. And this is a great momentum trade, JW. Absolutely. And Paul, that's that next step. When I told you that you're at that point now where you're starting to see things that fall outside, this is where rules are going to pay dividends for you, because you are proficient enough a chart reader that you're going to begin to see a lot of opportunities. So you've got to be able to speak to yourself in terms of advantages. And I think that last one is great. Guys, this is JW saying this area didn't break. There is that huge immediate momentum coming off of it. My large triggers haven't caught up yet, but everything says up, and my small chart is absolutely screaming, and I've got room to get to trouble. And you just execute beautifully, JW, taking small bites with momentum, taking small bites with direction, taking small bites and getting out at the trouble spot. And then the exact same look. It is a termination, and there's that immediate momentum again, and you're not to the next level, and you do have odds favorable, and sure enough, you get paid again. And it's the exact same look. Is that two different markets? Two different markets, exact same trigger look. So when you start talking about things that are repeatable, when you start talking about the idea of how do I repeat this trade? This is for you guys that aren't where JW is yet. Things that happen. And I think this is probably the biggest one. I'm going to draw a line on the small triggers. When they are going up just like that, anything on this side of the triggers is the momentum phase, the best of the best, the strongest. When the smalls are outside of the bars are outside of the small triggers, that is the strongest momentum phase ever. Notice that it's the same look here. So for you momentum traders, insist on this look. That's the best of the best. And then look at this. When the bars come to the other side, there's a loss of momentum, right? We're on the wrong side. We're not in the momentum phase. What an awesome spot to get the hell out of that trade. JW, thank you for the lesson. And you see this a lot, guys. So when the bars are outside of the large, that's your trend trade momentum phase. When the bars are outside of the small, that's your giddy up momentum phase. That's that small, quick, knock it out profits kind of trade. Nice job, JW. And thank you for the chart so that we could get that lesson. Ron, same thing. There's all the momentum. The path is clear. Small's outside of the small, and you carry it all the way down to support. Like you've done this once or twice. Nicely done. And then George, out too early from trade, trend trade. Where was your entry, my friend? I like it. It's 3 divergences. It's small above the large, even if it's not the best look. And you're taking a risk going into the area. But everything is telling you that this strong bottom, the reversal, it's likely to continue up. I have no idea how you entered this trade, but if you got in at 30.50, 30.25, I'm curious what made you sit through multiple divergences just below resistance. That's a tough hold, and I'm sure you have a plan. But I see 1 divergence, 2 divergence, 3 divergence. By then, maybe everything has rolled and it starts to go up. But that's a lot of fluctuation to sit through. And I'm assuming it stems from 3 divergences, from the large triggers up. And you said, I'll hold for the next area. Maybe a little experience there. But I don't know that I could call this a trend trade, because you're coming off a termination condition and you've had 3 divergences, and it's a difficult It's a difficult read on my end because I can't see what you actually did. So I apologize that I can't really give you more on that one. And then weak bottom, straight to a termination, full reversal, odds favorable, pullback. And Pedro said, I wish they could all be this easy. So Pedro, are you in here? Did you already jump ship? This is the part that nobody realizes. What is the only thing keeping them from all being this easy? What's the only thing that keeps this from being, or keeps the rest of your trades from being this easy? If you have momentum, if you have a clear path, if you have an entry area, Pedro, that's the recipe for easy, right? So when does it become harder? When does it become stressful? When does it become a little more of a nail biter? When you begin to omit advantages. And I love that you put that, Pedro. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful. The market does. The market doesn't always line up on your schedule. Would you agree? You were in at 11. You made 200 there, and you made 160 here. So you made $360 on that trade. $360 on that trade, Pedro. How many of those do you need in a day? Did you know that that same $360 trade on a 10 lot is a $3,600 trade? Or an $1,800 trade on a 5 lot? And Pedro, I think that this is the thing. And you're absolutely right. The market doesn't always line up like this. But if you wait for it to, it's pretty effortless. If you wait for it to, and here's the challenge, is that we start to get, and this isn't about you, Pedro, anymore. This is just traders in general. Is we start to take this long from the triggers, right? And we say to ourselves, oh, look at that long from the mid band because of all the momentum, and it stops you out, and you're like, shit. And then you take it again. No, maybe that's that PSO Mark was talking about, and you lose, and you're like, damn it. And then you take, I don't know, well, support has to hold because my triggers are green. And it's these three losers, when it's not perfect, that offset the one easy winner. And this is my own personal experience speaking, guys. The easiest way to get to where you want to be is learn how to eliminate the trades that don't give you an advantage, to eliminate the trades that rely on your opinion, to eliminate the trades that don't fit the plan. And it's hard, Pedro, because you're absolutely right. You had to wait through all of these shenanigans to get to that trade, to get to that $360 trade. But you want to see something cool? It was only 45 freaking minutes. Only 45 minutes coming off of that top up there until you were able to capitalize and make the easiest money that you'll ever make. So you guys think about that. Pedro just gave you the recipe for the perfect trade. He gave you the recipe for the perfect trade. Now you have to decide if you're willing to wait for it, or if you believe the market owes you more. If you believe that the market owes you more entries, more profits. And TLC, odds favorable, both triggers turn, price closes below white, blue line, entry at HVA, followed one up, down, stopped out. So you're trying to take John Novak's white bar trade. Is that right, TLC? I want to make sure that I give you the best coaching. Yeah. There's the one thing that you missed. Is the way he teaches it, it comes from a termination condition. All you did was, well, that's a long. You took a long. So you were in at 51.37. You went long right here, correct? So this one you traded into the termination condition. And then once it rolls, hold on, 37.50 was your entry. Why did you get stopped out of that trade? What stopped you out? Because I could see this, weaker triggers, 3 divergences, everything rolls. I don't think that there was a short trade. I don't think you have rules met for the HVA trade because there wasn't a termination. But after 3 divergences, the large roll, you take a beautiful entry on the pullback to the small triggers or the large triggers here on the right side of everything with momentum. And you just get popped out break even, it looks like. No trade on the third chart. Why are you showing me the third chart? Okay. So at entry, you have an HVA and you have momentum, and you already sat through the pullback, and that's your stop placement. And it dances, right? Because these two charts don't agree, TLC, because you're not coming from a termination. That's that indecision. And look what it looks like over here, right? You can see all the up and down. You followed one up and one down. Well, that was your down. That was your up, down. Here's your stop. Up, down. Your stop goes here. It shouldn't have gotten you if you were 2 ticks above it. And I see what you're doing. And I know why you're doing what you did. And I don't disagree with it at all. But I think having a termination and you put your stop on top of the bar instead of above the bar. Go get your bolts tightened. I think the small chart will help you though, because over here you can see that it was the no divergence pullback after the 3 divergences. Things start to roll, and maybe the pivots give you that little happy. I don't know. I don't disagree with your trade, and I think that the mid band is your first target down here at 33. But because these are still strong up, you're really throwing a little bit of hope on the trade. That's fighting the large chart and then using the small chart. And I think because you knew that you were fighting the large chart, maybe that's why you found yourself a little tighter on stops. Which I do that too. If I know that I'm in a fight, you did 500 on it. That's awesome. Can you do 500 on it 8 out of 10 times with that look on the large chart? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Can you do 500 on it trading directly into support? Can you do 500 on it? You know, and that's what you have to ask yourself. Is the 500 once worth the 300 lost multiple times? And I don't know if you would lose 300 multiple times, but I know that when I fight the large chart, the likelihood of success goes down dramatically. Good stuff. And then there's that look again. Not momentum, and then there's that momentum phase. There's that momentum phase. Straight down to the mid-band. JW, consistent, right as rain, my friend. And then Gino, I thought you ditched me. It's not a strong top. TLC, hold on. Let's do it. And let me just do this real quick. Oh, another John Novak tactic. Because remember, consistency is key, right, guys? Doing the same thing over and over. Your short was on this chart. So TLC, if you asked yourself, is that my best look for a short trade? If you had the microphone and I posted a chart and I said TLC with this look on my large chart, I'm dying to go short. That's one of the things, man, that my brother used to do to me. Yeah, I know I'm with you, but I'm trying to turn it into a lesson for everybody. And I apologize if it feels like I'm coming after you. This was one of the greatest things John Novak ever did to me. Is he goes, is this your best look for a short? And eventually I had to start using that language in my head. And then TLC, I'm gonna go next level on yours as well. The three divergences support the fight, right? The triggers rolling, the fast below the small support the fight. The HVA line supports the fight. I don't disagree with what you did here at all, and I think you did it from the right spot. And I think it looks like you got pulled out at 34.75, so you knew right where your trouble was. I don't disagree with your trade at all, but I have to turn it into a lesson for the whole class. But the white bar trades tend to be easier coming right off that good top or bottom. That's all. And then Gino says, termination hits the midband, gap theory, nothing changes. So when it comes down with momentum, he's got zero worries about the midband. Gino, something doesn't jive on your trigger lines. Gino, I think you may have a little challenge. You may be running something different, and this may help you out. Are you with me, Gino? I'm searching to see if he's in the room. Guys, do you see how the large triggers on the large chart are screaming down right here? Oh, that's a 21.3. Never mind. So your triggers were still up on the large chart. Your large triggers were still up on the large chart. Never mind. That's a 21.3. Never mind. But with the momentum and the pullback, you get in at resistance, which I love. And then when you get the pivot stop out, you choose to take your exit. Got scared and stopped like a real you know what. That's okay. The only way to not get scared is to keep taking trades that scare you and realizing that advantages tend to win. Symbols. Cav's not here to hear it, but guys, that is testicular fortitude. When you have a bad bottom trading directly into resistance and one-to-ones so Cav, you know it. Large triggers, gap theory, directly into problems. I mean, you hit that fib head on with the large triggers a full bar away, and you go long into the fib. And good on you. But those are some sim nuts. If you were a squirrel, you would be ready for winter. That's not how you've been making your money. I know that's not how you've been making your money. I like the read, taking the shot, multiple divergences. Guys, this is where you get, oh, it's aggressive. But let's celebrate the victories. Momentum phase on the large chart. Momentum phase on the large chart. That's just right into so much trouble. That's all right, Cav. Going with direction, going with the immediate momentum. And I think that the biggest thing for me on this is that you're not greedy with it. And I can say all day long, man, that's ballsy. But the fact that you're not greedy is amazing. Was this Zorro? Zorro, you decided to branch out into trend trades? Usually I see you long right here. And then when we get the pullback, there's that split triggers nemesis, ladies and gentlemen. 2 correction points, and your only line is floating in the middle of them, which makes it a little more difficult. And you take it there, and your stop keeps you safe. And when it finally starts to go up, you said, that's enough for me. I'll just take a couple. And Zoro, I know that you've gotten out of your comfort zone a little bit there. That's not the trade that you typically show me. But trading with direction, trading with momentum, and you took a shot from the mid-band there. All right, 50-50, strong top, triggers roll, scissors open, momentum on both charts, enter on the pullback, favorable large triggers below the fib, divergence printed, rules say get out, didn't and got burned, moved my stop to above mid-band, hoping it would hold. It did not, but too late for me. Muser, I love the look. I really do. That's a strong top, man. That is a 50-50. Can we dissect it a little bit? You know I'm going to anyway, right? And I think that you're going to dig this, and I think you're going to find this helpful. You had good top, odds favorable. Do you notice that one, though? Cav, take care, man. Great trading. That's a no. And that's a no. So even with the strong top, if you're willing to skip on this one, and I don't disagree with your decision to do that, the fact that these triggers are weaker, Muser, it's more likely to push up higher because your small chart is showing you that loss of momentum, not only in weakening triggers, but also with divergence. And this is one of those times when I said, if divergence is a potential, wait and see if it prints. And that'll unlock a lot of, it's hard to in the moment. Your large chart is perfect. Your small chart said have a little bit of patience. Maybe wait for the higher area. This is one of the things that Paul Pineski does really well is he identifies on these trades that the small chart isn't perfect, and he'll type on his chart, top of the window or no trade. And he loves that because it reduces his risk, and it's brilliant. And it says, the whole reason we go low is because it's strong, because it's odds favorable, because there's nothing wrong. And then when this starts to slow, you can say something clever like, man, it can come get me at the mid-band at the top of the window, or maybe I'm not. And I've read that 100 times on his charts, and I think it is such a great plan because then you can be a little looser on your stops, right? You've got a little more room. You can still risk 70 or 80 bucks and be, 9 or 10 ticks beyond the top of that window. So, Muser, I think you did a great job on this one. I think that you had a lot of advantages. And that one little nuance of seeing that loss of strength maybe has you recalculate your entry point. Does that make sense? Cool. That's a good lesson, guys. That's one of those things where your chart read takes you to the next level. Nicely done. Let's see where we're at here. It's already 11 a.m. Ron says TTFM. When it's down, oh no. Ron took a second higher divergence and says it's probably going to get back to the mid-band with that look. And that's exactly where he gets paid. And that may be the smallest trade I've ever seen you take. Took the money and run. 100 is 100. Nice job, Ron. Fighting momentum, fighting direction, but going with divergence, change, clear path. Whew, heartburn. I need some Tums. I need some Tums. It worked. And then Paul, still good space between price and the large triggers. I agree 100%. It's also not a good bottom. And you've got those damn split triggers, Paul. Your only areas are in between. Did you stick around last time when you were asking about the correction point? You may have had to take it, your kids. Um, I'd love to talk about it again if you guys want to talk about it. I think it's a pretty good lesson. The whole idea of moving averages, um, and what they mean to you for entries. The trigger lines are nothing more than moving averages, right? And we expect price to pull back to them. So check it out. Price pulls back to the moving average here, right? And then there's your small chart moving average, and there's your large chart moving average, the same one. So I expect price to make it back to the triggers. And when I've got two different trigger locations, I've got two different spots where price may return. And if I don't have any lines inside of these triggers, and I don't have any lines inside of these triggers, then I can force myself to be inclined to wait for some sort of confirmation, some sort of up bar, some sort of market flow signal, some roll of the small triggers, just anything. Anything to help me fight the indecision. And then, guys, if you don't think base hits pay bills, Paul made his $100 on there and got out of this trade break even. That's experience, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't think it's the large triggers that you should, that is a sit it out moment. I think it's more the split triggers on the small chart. I think that when the triggers split on the small chart, it really does jack with your advantage of understanding with the level of accuracy that you're capable of to get into the market where it's most likely to continue. So little lesson there. And then Pedro, odds favorable, clear path, pulls back to support inside of favorable large triggers. One divergence is still okay. Moves your order up to the midband, the highest point of support inside of favorable large triggers. You think perfect entry here, confluence support, favorite large triggers. It just didn't get you. You didn't take this one because of the resistance above. I like it. That was crude oil at 11.18. And then Pedro, that was your entry, right? No. What time zone are you in, Pedro? Because I'm not even to 11.18 yet. So would that be 10.18 on my chart? Oh, that was a saved chart from the past. Okay. How did that one turn out? Do you remember? I'm looking, I'm like, man, I can't line that up. How did that one turn out for you? I love it. I don't know that I would put that much risk on it after the reversal bar, but I'm a big fan of believing my own hype. That when everything says up, and I get that reversal bar, man, you were in at 74. I firmly believe you could have had a 69 stop and it would have been everything that you needed it to be, or even a 70 stop behind that reversal bar. And it didn't make resistance, you said. So maybe there were a couple divergences. You did move your stop up. This is where I'm a big fan. 74, you were already $100 in the mix right there, right? And if you made the first target out at the first trouble spot, beautiful. Don't lose money with the loss of momentum here. So I love it, Pedro. That is an easier one that just needed to be managed a little bit. It's not odds favorable. but it's still momentum. It's that one line back inside of the triggers letting you know that momentum is slowing. And this is where I start saying to myself, all right, when I get to this spot, exactly like you did, I'm going to make sure I don't lose money because I notice that the large short's losing momentum. Great trade. I think that's still a pretty easy trade. It just requires a little more management because it's not odds favorable. Beauty. Two good ones today, Pedro. Thank you for that. Guys, I'm going to go take 5 minutes. There's a termination condition. Textbook. There was the potential to break with no divergence and a pull back to the mid-band inside. I'll be back in about 5 minutes, guys. I'm going to stretch my legs, scratch my dog, reload my water. And when I come back, last hour belongs to you guys. For you guys that are still relatively new with me, let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what you wish I would talk about more. You don't have to ask a question because, man, asking a question means you don't know something that's brand new to you. But if there were just a topic that you wouldn't be upset about hearing more about, feel free to drop it in the room. So Ron, once again, momentum phase, clear path, everything down, in, out. Add 550 to the chili dog fund. That's a lot of chili dogs. Rana's top and bottom study is as good on golf course as on the beach. I love it. So guys, Ron, great one. Can I tell you one of my favorite things about the way you trade isn't even the trades that you take? It's the fact that you get done, get the hell out and go live your life. And when you guys get good at this, you don't have to spend 8 hours in front of the computer. It is 11:09 in Myrtle Beach, and Ron's about to go chase chili dogs and bikinis. That's the life I want to live. That is the life that I want to live. That's the life I want all of you to live. So I'm not going to lie, that's my favorite thing about everything that you do, Ron, is that you're not married to this. You're using it as a tool to reach your goals, then you get the hell out and live life. And life is too short not to do that. So, guys, watch the charts. I'll be back in 5. Ron, I hope you have an awesome afternoon. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. All right, coming back. So Lenny, when you post, it is probably in your Discord settings. So if I take a link, let me see, and I'm sure there's a way to find it. So if I copy the link, actually, let me go to Snagit. If I just copy the picture from Snagit, or if you hit copy, it gives just the picture rather than the screencast link. And let's see what it does. If I hit share link, it's going to give me the link. And if I post that in there, mine shows both. So I'm going to go to my Discord settings. Do you want it to show the picture, Lenny? I'm pretty sure it's just settings. And I'm looking to see, and I would have to take a look at it to see exactly what it is. Probably shouldn't do it. No, I don't think it's a software issue. I think it's a settings issue where you could show the entire picture or you can show just the link. If I can find it this afternoon, I'll take a couple notes and bring it. But you're just fine. As long as I can see the link, guys, you're good. Like Joel dropped the link in. So if I click on the link, it gets me everything that I need. And then Joel, momentum, momentum, momentum. Let it get to the other side of problems and out. Joel, I think you found your trade, my friend. I think you have found your trade. All right. So Paul, if you look at Ron's trades, and I hope he doesn't mind me teaching it. It took me months to figure it out. He used to not write on his charts. He did it enough, and I think he did it for me. There's a couple different things that have to happen, and it all starts on the large chart. Price gets below the area, not triggers. It goes against the whole wins an area broken thing. Back of the price bar clears the midband. Back of the price bar clears the area. And that's the precursor to everything. And that's what sets off looking for the entry. But that was the biggest thing that I missed with his trades in the beginning, Paul, is so for example, Ron wouldn't have a trade here until price cleared the area. He wouldn't have a trade here until price cleared the area. And then once it cleared the area, he would make sure that the rest of his rules are met over on this chart. And you'll notice that's where it clears here with odds favorable momentum. And that's where that push happens. And guys, this is someone else's trade. I'm not teaching it. I'm just telling you what I know about his trade. He lets the back of the bar clear any problems on the large chart. And then once that happens, he makes sure that he's odds favorable momentum in both places. And he's not looking for home runs. But that's the biggest thing. And the difference is as people try to imitate his trade, I don't know, he just gets, guys, you have to come up with your own plan. I'm telling you what I know. It does seem that way, doesn't it, Paul? But you ever notice he jumps in at the same place every time? Jumps in at the same darn place every time. Has the same targets every time. But that was one of the biggest factors that I had to figure out, was getting the back of the bar beyond the area and then with the momentum. So you have to have a run, Paul. So let's just go through it. If that's the back of the bar that cleared the area, you're not trading into one-to-ones and a divergence, right? You're saying to yourself, let me let trouble clear. And then with this momentum and price clears the area, let me look for something that's north of trouble and south of trouble. And let me just try to capture small moves. And he may go from like 30 to 41. And that's it. And then he gets the hell out. And then when it clears the midband, maybe from 45 to 56. Maybe he does it again. But he's very cognizant of what the areas and what the problems are, guys. And he'll tell you that it all stems from his understanding of the high probability trend trade. It all stems from his ability to recognize momentum, to understand when paths are clear. And guys, I don't have rules for his trade written down. It's not a representation of Nexgen. It's not anything that I teach other than me trying to help you guys right now with what I understand his chart rate to be. Please don't email Ron and text Ron and DM Ron and say, teach me to do what you do. That's not fair to Ron. That'd be like you guys walking into McDonald's, walking behind the counter and going, hey, teach me how to build Big Macs. And the high probability trend trade sets it up, guys. I'll share everything that I have. There's a million ways to make money with this software. There's so many ideas, but you have to find the one that works for you. And I think that's what we don't do. And maybe you guys will agree with me on this one, and maybe you won't. I think that the average person doesn't want to go through finding what works for them. They don't want to go through learning the rules. They don't want to go through taking the pictures. They don't want to go through participating in class. They want to see Ron making money and then decide, well, I'll just do what he does. And they don't understand the amount of work that Ron put into it. And they see, any of the people in here, any of you guys in here, they don't see Pedro putting in hours learning momentum and clear paths and entry areas. And they don't see Jen doing it. They don't see Surgeon doing it, and Chris and Jerry. And they just think that, well, I own the software, therefore I'm entitled. I should be profitable. I should be able to do this. And you can do this, but you have to learn it. And that's where people fall short, I believe. That's where people struggle. It's like walking into, I don't know, it's like your first year of college and you're like, I'm an engineering major, and you want to build bridges your freshman year when you still should be focused on biology 101 and English 101. And you're not even in your structural engineering classes yet, and you're not in your physics classes yet, and you're not in all these classes that you're going to need to be able to not kill people, but you still feel like you should be able to build bridges. And then you finally graduate with that basics. I got a 4-year degree in engineering. I should be able to put people on the moon. But you're not. The people that put people on the moon, guys, they're 25 years in. They've been doing this forever. And aerospace engineering is secondhand to them. So, man, that's not true. My brother's pretty successful. I do all right. But what you run into is if you do the work, you'll achieve your goals. And your achievements will be a direct reflection of the work that you put in. And I think life is like that anyway. Go ask any 23-year-old recent college grad that lives with his parents because he can't make 6 figures out of college. Well, I don't want to do the work to 6 figures. I deserve, because I paid $100,000. I don't know. I might have. Where was it? I probably did. When did you post it, Paul? I'm all the way back at 10:37. Is it that one? Termination, full reversal, odds favorable. It looks like the large made it below resistance, which means that you have a clear path. You take the perfect entry, you get paid, and on that second divergence, you choose to exit. I love it. I love everything about it. And you know, if you go through the management materials, one of the things they'll tell you on this look, like that's a great spot for first profits, is that divergence low. That's a great spot for first profits, which means that it's probably a good spot if all you're trading is the 2 lot and you're in at 27. There's your $300 trade, Paul. Wouldn't you agree? That was a $300 potential. Pretty effortless. That's one of the things, and I think that I do this too. And I'm not saying that it's not normal or anything, but I do that too. I go back to trades and I'm like, man, I'm holding for that fib, hell or high water. And I hate giving money back. So when I get down here, I'm like, okay, a reversal bar can take me out, right? Especially if it doesn't break through it. Reversal bar can take me out. I try to give as little back as possible. I'm in this to get paid, 100%. So I try to take the path of least resistance. And if I have $300 to get down there, I'm a good enough trader that I'll just wait for the next opportunity. Nice trade, Paul. What do you guys want to talk about? It's 11:30 in the a.m. Maybe we should just go all play golf, right? Let's see what my brother is sending me. He likes to send me these. That's not a bad living. A PSO considered a good top or bottom? Josh, let's go Sunday school on it. What's your recipe for a good top or bottom? It has to be a no triggers through termination that reverses the market, right? So if I have a no triggers through PSO, let's see if we can find one. Boom. That's a good bottom, isn't it? It really is that simple. And TLC, the only way I can do that is if rules are met. And right now I have indecision and triggers, and I'm into a termination, and I have a termination below me. So TLC, do you see how I don't have any rules met? No, I didn't save it. Sorry. He probably posted it in the main room. That's not even a trade. It's just him bragging about the money that he made. So on the S&P, I don't have any rules met. On crude oil, if I can clear these 1-to-1s, I have a potential trade. Does that make sense? I'm just playing if-then. Oh, there's nothing to take apart. It's nothing. There's nothing to see on there. It's a small little chart with no entries, no exits, no large chart information. There's literally nothing for you to pull apart on that one at all. I can go through and see if he gave me something good. I don't mind. He doesn't mind. Here's one. Let's do that. Let's dissect John Novak's charts. So, and I can tell you guys that the large chart was strong triggers. Large chart looked good. So there's the first potential entry. Second lower divergence says exit. 2 divergences. There's your pivot stop out, and it pulls all the way down to support. And he takes the up bar. He takes the reversal bar when it says relax a little bit. And I can tell you that the large chart was solid. Whoops. But there's still really not enough information on this one to discern why he did what he did. I'll show you the aftermath of it. My brother and I tend to take the same trades. So I took the first one off a reversal bar. The second divergence, it got me. I kept my stop in place for the pivot stop out. So then I said, man, I've got to let it be right. And it comes back. And then it gives me a reversal bar. And I had a limit order or a stop in order right here, TLC, because my large chart was odds favorable to the upside. My large chart said go. My small chart said patience. This is how much I got slipped on the NASDAQ. My order was here. My entry was all the way up here. Guys, this is why the NASDAQ, you have to know what you're looking for. But once we got there, I'm not going to lie, once I got in, I wouldn't let my dog out. I came back to profits, and that's why they look weird. But weak triggers, not quite broken. Nothing to do there. Hey guys, it's easy to look at other people's stuff and say, I'm going to do what they do. But there's a million ways to read a chart, and you have to be able to read it so that your rules are met. And this is one of the pictures that I took this morning. And this was NASDAQ this morning, guys. And this is where you have to not only understand your rules, but you have to let your chart read do it. So Josh, strong top or bottom, right? No triggers through, creates a reversal. It's a strong top. So does that mean that it's time to go down? Or is that pivot stop out right at support? Man, should I look for an opportunity to go up? Is the odds favorable, momentum down? Is the support saying up? Guys, I could, and true story, maybe I'm a good salesman. I could make a case for either direction here. And I think most of you could too, right? Second higher divergence, pivot stop out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas not broken of support. And the thing is, I have to ask myself, well, are my rules met? So what you may see, and guys, this is one of the things that you're going to see here, is within this indecision, when you start getting good at it, you'll start trading in between the range. And you'll start making little bits of money here and there. This is where John Novak excels, TLC. And this is why I encourage everybody with a brain, don't try to do what my brother does. Because my brother will go long and then exit and then go back short and exit and go long and exit. And he'll find a way to make $1,000 when most mortals don't have rules met. And if you try to do what he does without having the 27 years that he has, it becomes pretty problematic for most traders. So all of you guys that thought you were going up off the bottom just got stopped out. So Josh, was this a good bottom? Let's test your knowledge. Are you still here, Josh? Oh, yeah, he is. So what do you think? Let's ask everybody, is this a good bottom? Nobody knows. So the rule is, if this termination creates a reversal, absolutely. But it's not, Haji. Look at your large triggers. It never created a reversal, ever. Those large triggers kept going down the whole way, which means that it's not a strong top or bottom yet, which decreases the likelihood of these areas breaking. Now we're coming into that pivot stop out, and the triggers aren't through. The smalls are above, the large haven't broken. If this goes up and creates a reversal, right now it's a termination condition. If it creates the reversal, then it's a termination that creates a reversal, and then I'll have that strong bottom. So now it's just a pivot stop out. And the pivot stop out rules say no shorts if price trades below and back above. Does everybody remember that? Straight out of the manual. Or for my Spanish speaking friends, straight out of the manual. There's our picture right there. And there it is. No more short trades is what the manual tells you. No more short trades is what I say every day. So if you went short at the mid band, guess what? You just lost. It almost feels too easy, doesn't it? My rules weren't met. I chose not to take a trade. I avoided a loser. So what happens if this termination creates a full reversal? Well, my first potential shot will be the one that you see like JW taking. If these small triggers roll and start to come up strong, my bars will be on the momentum phase side. Maybe I look for my first opportunity there. That's not a high probability trend trade scenario, guys. That's looking for the first opportunity. And then from there, if the triggers roll, well, then I'll look for that odds favorable momentum and maybe a 50-50 here. That's probably my second opportunity. And then I would have to get all the way up here looking for that third opportunity, which is probably where my high probability trend trades is going to start. So ideally, for the brand new user, you've got a long wait when stuff like this happens. But as you begin to see more, you begin to catch more and more opportunities. So right now, if it reverses, we're still in the process of a good bottom because the smalls didn't break and the large were unable. But until it reverses, it's just a termination condition, and this market could still go down. We have to wait and see. What would you guys like to talk about? So TLC, I'm looking for a live trade for you. What do you want to talk about? I have momentum. It's not odds favorable. Would you agree? You guys, I want you to tell me if you see it the way I see it. I have momentum, so let's type it out. Let's talk exactly what we should be saying in our head. I have momentum, but it's not odds favorable momentum. Still up and strong. My triggers both have cleared the area. I do have a clear path. What do you guys think? Do you agree so far? Is that a pretty solid large chart read? Goes back to the very basics, right? My large and synthetic are overlapping, wouldn't you agree? I feel like when they're overlapping, that's favorable. I have an area inside of them. What do you guys think? Could we make a case for the entry at 82.10 for a medium probability trend trade? Because momentum isn't the best, but it's still pretty good. The smalls are inside of what, TLC? Which chart are we talking about? Help me out. I can't see. Here's your small triggers. And thank you for saying that, TLC. Here's my large triggers. Do you see the gap between the small and the large? And this is where you've got to not look at the synthetics, guys. The synthetics are a correction point. That's all they're used for, is a correction point. Synthetics are used for entries. That's it. Momentum is defined with the small and the large. Does that make sense, TLC? And this is a problem that I had for years. And somebody said it a while ago, and it really clicked with me. And watch this. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can pull the synthetics off. 21.3, 13.2. And I'm not sure that I'm doing this right, so. Well, that wasn't it. It left the synthetics on. Shoot. This is why I'm not the tech guy, guys. But what happens, TLC, and let me see if I can just find a picture of it. And I want to tell you, I did this for years. So it's zero worries about this one. Don't feel. So when we look at the small chart, we've got the large triggers and the synthetic triggers. Is everybody comfortable with that? That there are two sets of triggers on the small chart. There's two large triggers on the small chart. There's the large triggers, which are native, and then there are the synthetic triggers, which are pulled over from the large chart. Why do we do that? We do that because the same way we expect price to correct on the small chart, we expect it to correct on the large chart. I wouldn't get in on either, TLC, because I don't trade crude. But give me a second. We'll go back to it and we'll go through the rules. So I've got synthetic triggers, or I've got large triggers on the large chart, probably where I expect the correction. So if I put them on the small chart and the large chart and the small chart correction point overlap, then it creates an advantage for me. Does that make sense? Because now I'm taking both charts and I'm lining up the correction point. That's why we're so effective on entries. But I'm still using the small chart for momentum. I'm using the large triggers and the small triggers to establish that momentum. So what I'm looking at, and let's go back to the rules, TLC. Are you pretty familiar with the rules for the high probability trend trade? Rule 3 says enter at an area inside of favorable large triggers. Are you comfortable with that verbiage, everybody? Rule 3 says enter at an area inside of favorable large triggers. How come? Because the triggers are where I expect price to correct to, right? TLC, this is the most important part of this lesson for me, and I want to make sure that you're comfortable with it. The triggers are where I expect price to pull back to, right? So in the perfect world, I'm expecting this right here, pretty much. But I don't expect triggers to stop the market, and that's why we trade from areas. So even though I'm in at the highest point, my expectation doesn't change. I still think it should go down and up, right? So I know that there's potential for overrun. What you run into with an area beyond the correction point is what you're saying is that even though this is my expectation, I hope that this little green line floating in the middle of nowhere is enough to stop the market, and very often it isn't. So if you were looking for that trade, you would be looking from the area inside and that's still momentum and it's a clear path, but here we give up momentum and let's see what happened. And then we give it up again, and do you see how the small triggers are back inside of the large here, TLC? And then do you see how the mid band is not inside of favorable large triggers? And that simple concept keeps you from trying the mid band long. Pretty awesome, right? And then with this look and this look, JW went short from the momentum phase. And he held it down to the mid band or support. Momentum phase, and that's where he grabbed hold of that little one. Great questions, TLC. Thank you for those. And then Joel says, strong triggers, absolutely. The path is clear. The pullback, you got in a couple ticks lower. Quick profits because the momentum isn't perfect. And then when divergence prints, he gets out. Brilliant, Joel. Great trade. And there it is, kind of all pieced together for you, what it looks like when you get in and you get paid with this look. But the large chart leads the way. That's got to be the key. The large chart has got to lead the way. And now we're into support. And we're into support with absolutely no triggers broken. And here, look at that. It wasn't a good bottom, but now I have anything can happen triggers. And the market is definitely moving down, but look at this. I've got divergence. I've got no areas inside of favorable large triggers. So even though TLC, I wish that I could just jump in and hope for the best, I've given up two of my rules here. So my chart read says 5109.62 may actually stop the market and it may continue down because all of my triggers are below it, but I don't have an entry area and I don't really have momentum to the downside, which means that when I have this look, when I'm beyond the correction point, guys, this is exactly how I think about it. It could stop right there. Couldn't we agree? But it could also go up to here. It might go up to here, and it could even go to the mid band up here. And this is where you have to accept that without momentum or a bounce point inside of the triggers, I'm guessing. Does that make sense, everybody? Some days, guys, it's easy all day long and it's like an ATM. Some days, those jerk faces make you wait all day long. And some days you're like, gosh, I made $200 today. This sucks, right? And that's what you focus on. I only made $200. I need to break my rules tomorrow. I only made $200 today. I need to take more trades. I need to be more aggressive. And then the next day, everything lines up 20 times, right? And you miss every one of them because from 5:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m., you broke your rules to make that money and you ended up blowing out. And you had to call your wife and apologize. And that's kind of what it is. And once you believe in your rules, guys, it's hard to get you to break them. What's your question? We don't have to do anything, right? So let's go through it. You know I'm messing with you. Price reaches it, no triggers. That's a termination, right, TLC? Smalls break through with odds favorable momentum. It has the potential to break. Small and large below. These one-to-ones are in the rearview mirror. And that's it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Joel maybe taking that one. That's a tough one to catch, guys. Because that's a bad top directly into support. That's a tough one to catch. I probably wouldn't have got that one. I would have left that one alone from a bad top personally. And it's easy to say I should have when the market goes down, right? It's easy to say, man, I can't believe I didn't take that short and make all that money because it went down. But it was quick. It was fast. And it was a little sketchy. So it's okay. It's okay to not catch everything. Now I'm a 50-50. I'm at support. And I'm from a bad top. And this is where I say to myself, 50-50 from a bad top. My small triggers are getting inside of the large. I'm not jumping in momentum style because I don't have momentum on my small chart. Maybe it goes, maybe it doesn't. And this is where I say, you know what? With this much momentum and the potential to break, maybe I'll take it from the highest point or I won't take it at all, right? because I don't have odds favorable momentum on the small chart. And I'm directly into support that hasn't broken yet on the large chart. And it's okay to say without momentum, I can't take a momentum trade. Or if you did, if Paul, like Paul says, if you do decide to take it, you say to yourself, if this turns into a reversal bar up, maybe I'll exit the trade. You have to decide whether or not that's right for you. You have to decide whether or not this is your trade. It's a 50-50 from a bad top without odds favorable momentum. And the smalls have barely eked through. And I'm not in the momentum phase. I don't even have odds favorable. So maybe if you catch it on the way down, you say, I'm willing to give it a shot because they seem to be in a hurry to get lower. But man, there's no way I'm risking a lot of money. Do you guys want to let this one ride out? I don't have rules for this trade. It doesn't fit any of my rules. I'm just going off of what Paul says. Paul says with a small stop, it might be worth it. And here, we'll do the Ron approach. Well, we are. From 80 to 69 is $110. Oh, from the top of the window. I thought you meant the momentum from the large chart. That's okay. Let's let it plan out. Let's see if it turns into a trend trade. Nobody's posting pictures. Nobody's asking questions. So let's see what happens. Who knows? Maybe this is one of the ones that work. Maybe because I broke my rules, if I take a picture, I'll go look for 100 of these and see if there's a chance to make some money. It's not letting me open your picture, Paul. It's kind of fuzzy. I'm going to give it a second. Paul, could you try and post that again? I think I'm locked up on being able to catch pictures. They're trying, aren't they? Not right there. No, I was with you. You were saying catch it from the top of the window, or not at all, right? I thought you meant from down here when I entered it. But I think that this is a good one, and I would be surprised if it didn't lose. And it may win. But I think for the sake of the classroom, right? Now it's the triggers all the way through here and the pullback to resistance. Do we tighten up even more and say a reversal bar is my reason for exit, and this is super low risk, and maybe I can take it and maybe I can't. And Paul, I cannot get your pictures to open. Like I can't even get it to blow up and show on my chart. Do you guys think it's weird that right at the fib, it keeps going up and down? You think maybe there's a fight? Did you see how much the market slowed down right there? That lets me know that there's something going on at that fib, right? There's some sort of fight happening at that fib. There's something between buyers and sellers going on there. And the further I get away from that fib, the easier the trades become. And then for you guys that love the range chart, right? That was your termination. You're on the wrong side of the triggers here. You don't have momentum on your range chart. You also don't have momentum on your small chart. How long do you hold this trade and hope? I don't know. We'll see what happens. These are the ones that'll let you win just enough to get you to break your rules every now and then. S&P playing around. Is that it, guys? Are we done? Oh, look, it didn't go to the target yet. Shoot. I think that's a day. Good day today.